Cyberpunk 2 has been in pre-production for over 6 months since officially entering that phase in May 2025. With CD Projekt showing no urgency to rush into full production, this deliberate, methodical approach represents a fundamental shift in how the studio develops games, prioritizing foundation over speed, planning over promises, and sustainable development over crunch-driven deadlines. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the extended pre-production window for Cyberpunk 2 and its online mode's development, along with the creator Mike Pondsmith involvement in the second game, and even the future of Cyberpunk beyond Cyberpunk 2. So let's understand what's actually happening right now with Cyberpunk 2, as pre-production for this game isn't just passive planning, it's actually intensive creative and technical architecture that determines whether a project succeeds or collapses under its own ambition. So what does Cyberpunk 2's pre-production phase involve? Well, it involves narrative and world design, where they're going to be establishing the core story, protagonists, character arcs, and how the new city and night city function within the game structure. Writers are guiding the narrative framework that will guide 4 years of content creation. It also involves technical prototyping, building functional prototypes in Unreal Engine 5 to test core gameplay systems, like how combat feels, traversal mechanics, RPG progression, and critically, multiplayer infrastructure. These aren't polished demos, they're actually more like rough experiments, proving concepts work before committing resources. This phase also involves pipeline establishment, creating the production pipeline, assets move from concept to implementation, teams collaborate across Boston, Vancouver, Warsaw, how multiplayer and single player components integrate or remain separate in this case. This infrastructure determines development efficiency for the next 4 years, as well as staffing strategy, as the Boston studios have actually already hired the senior leadership first, and now scaling to the mid and junior developers who execute on the framework veterans established, which is basically the team that will build the game. Also in this phase is engine mastery. This team has to learn the new capabilities of Unreal Engine 5, its limitations, its optimization for its massive open world RPG with multiplayer functionality. The Witcher 4 team is pioneering this work. Cyberpunk 2 benefits from those lessons while adapting for different gameplay needs. This phase typically takes 18 to 24 months for projects of Cyberpunk 2 scale, and CD Projekt Red has entered pre-production in May 2025 and plans to double the Boston team over the next 2 years, placing full production entry around late 2026, but more likely at the end of 2027, even into 2028. So why is Cyberpunk 2 utilizing extended pre-production? Well, not only does CD Projekt Red have the finances to fund this, they're actually learning from Cyberpunk 2077's mistake. Now, we all know how bad Cyberpunk was at launch, and they don't want to repeat the mistakes again. More critically, there was a planned multiplayer component which was going to be a standalone release for the game, which never got made because of this disaster. So this time around, not only are they working with a brand new engine, which is optimized with a multiplayer infrastructure, they're actually planning all of this very early so they can build all these systems simultaneously, as one of the major problems for Cyberpunk 2077's online mode was that it was going to be tacked on post-release and was likely still in development, not really well planned. This time around, they have the team, they've got the technology, they've got the experience, and they have the huge ambitions, not only with Cyberpunk, but even with The Witcher. And CD Projekt Red can't afford another launch like Cyberpunk 2077, as the company's reputation, stock price, and franchise viability suffered massive damage, but 2 years of post-launch fixes save Cyberpunk 2077 along with the anime. That's not a repeatable strategy. So what about the creator of Cyberpunk himself, Mike Pondsmith? Well, it seems Mike Pondsmith's reduced hands-on involvement in Cyberpunk 2 compared to Cyberpunk 2077 reflects both his age, as he's 70 years old, and CDPR's evolved understanding of the Cyberpunk universe. Pondsmith's role in Cyberpunk 2077 was that he was heavily involved throughout development. Listed in credits for lore consultation, he was embedded enough to course correct design decisions, like when the developers initially designed silver blaster-like sci-fi guns and Pondsmith had to explain Cyberpunk guns are bigger, nasty, black, scary things which occasionally have little lights on them that watch you like eyes. But they are not science fiction. They are brutal things from where we are that have been basically kicked up 2 or 3 notches. He attended the Krakow studio to explain the concept directly to developers. The important part was everybody listened, Pondsmith emphasized. The team constantly asked, "What do you think?" throughout the development, ensuring alignment with his vision. So this time around with Cyberpunk 2, he's more consultative and less embedded in the development. He reviews scripts, provides feedback on environmental design and cyberware concepts, and ensures fidelity to Cyberpunk's universe, but he's not directing daily creative decisions. During a recent CD Projekt visit, Pondsmith described, "Last week I was wandering around talking to different departments and seeing what they had. Oh look, this is the new cyberware what do you think? Oh yeah, that's pretty good, that works here. He spent significant time with the environment team reviewing the new city. I remember looking at it going, yeah, I understand that feel you're going for this, and this really does work. And it doesn't feel like Blade Runner, it feels like Chicago gone wrong. I said, yeah, I can see this working. Why did this work for Cyberpunk 2? CDPR's team now deeply understands the Cyberpunk universe after shipping the base game and Phantom Liberty expansion. They don't need constant guidance. They need validation and course correction. Pondsmith functions as quality assurance for tonal and lore consistency, not as creative director. People had asked me the entire time, what do you think? In fact, that still goes on now, Pondsmith explained. A good portion of the trip I've just taken out here to CD Projekt, people have been showing me what they're doing, they're showing me what's going to be happening in the new iteration of the game, showing me what's happening with, you know, some of the TV or radio, whatever stuff. They ask me all the time, so it means that we stay in the same space, we see the same outcomes. The consultative model respects Pondsmith's advancing age while leveraging his irreplaceable knowledge. He doesn't need to be in daily stand-up. He needs to review key creative decisions and flag when something violates the universe's fundamental principles. And we also know right now, currently, the priority is The Witcher 4 for CD Projekt. And that reality directly impacts Cyberpunk 2's timeline. Understanding why requires examining the studio's resource allocation and franchise strategy. Now, the current team distribution in Q3 2025 is The Witcher 4 has 447 developers in full production. Cyberpunk 2 has 135 developers in pre-production. Now, The Witcher 4 consumes triple Cyberpunk 2's headcount because it's in full production. A phase where hundreds of developers create final assets, implement systems, optimize performance, and build the actual shippable game. Cyberpunk 2's smaller team reflects pre-production is focused on planning and prototyping, not mass content creation. CDPR also stated the goal is delivering the Witcher trilogy within 6 years total. Aggressive timeline that requires shorter development cycles than traditional AAA games. If The Witcher 4 releases in 2027, Witcher 5 will likely be in 2029 or 2031, and The Witcher 6 will be in 2031 to 2033. And although I don't see this happening at all, and it's likely that the next 2 Witcher games will release in 8 to 9 years after the first game's release, cadence is possible because they are using a shared engine. Unreal Engine 5 eliminates engine development time. They are using the same assets across the trilogy, which reduces art production overhead, establish the world and lore which requires less conceptual work, and lessons from The Witcher 4 development streamlined The Witcher 5 and 6. So the question is, could Cyberpunk also follow this model? Now, theoretically it could, but likely it won't for several critical reasons, as Cyberpunk 2 actually has a different studio structure. The Witcher trilogy will be developed primarily for CD Projekt's Warsaw and Krakow teams, have decades of experience with fantasy, RPGs, and established Witcher development pipelines. Cyberpunk 2 is actually being built by the Boston studio, which is still scaling up, with Vancouver and Warsaw support. This is a new team in a new location, building a new multiplayer infrastructure. They're not positioned for rapid iteration yet. There's also the fact that this team is also building the multiplayer standalone component, and upon its release, will also be supporting it with post-launch support. This will function like GTA Online. Persistent evolving online world requires ongoing live service support post-launch. That support diverts resources from immediate sequel development, and the Boston team building multiplayer infrastructure suggests this component is substantial, not just a simple co-op mode. That scope doesn't lend itself to 2-year sequel turnaround. There's also different creative requirement. The new Witcher trilogy would seemingly follow Ciri in each game through a connected narrative arc across established locations. Cyberpunk structure is exploring different cities, different eras of the Cyberpunk timeline, different protagonist story, and requires much more conceptual work per game. But when does full production actually begin for Cyberpunk 2? Well, it's likely that full production will start in late 2027 or early 2028. A CD Projekt Red plan to double the Boston team over the next 2 years from Q3 2025's announcement. That timeline extends through to Q3 2027. Teams don't scale to full size during pre-production. They scale entering or during full production when mass content creation begins. Also, as The Witcher 4 approaches completion, likely in 2027, some of its 447-person team will roll off to other projects. Key talent like directors, leads, senior designers may move to Cyberpunk 2 to bolster the Boston team or strengthen the Vancouver Warsaw support team. This resource shift naturally occurs when The Witcher 4 is done, but a lot of the team will also likely go straight to The Witcher 5. There's also a 4 to 5 production cycle. As co-CEO Michael Nowakowski stated, CD Projekt's journey from pre-production to final release takes 4 to 5 years on average. If pre-production began May 2025, extends through 2026, adding 4 to 5 years places release at 2030 to 2032. That 4 to 5 years starts from production entry, not pre-production entry. Also, with the multiplayer infrastructure, the networking architecture, matchmaking systems, and server the infrastructure being built now must be functional before full production begins. You can't create multiplayer content at scale without working multiplayer systems to build upon. These foundational systems need 12 to 18 plus months of development and testing, placing readiness in late 2026 to early 2027. But what does full production mean for Cyberpunk 2? Well, when Cyberpunk 2 enters full production, development fundamentally changes. The current 135-person team will grow to 300 to 400 developers. This influx includes environment artists creating the new city and expanded Night City, character artists building NPCs, protagonist options and key characters, combat designers implementing and balancing gameplay systems, quest designers scripting missions, dialogue and branching narratives, technical artists optimizing performance and visual fidelity, QA testers identifying bugs and balancing issues, while multiplayer designers create online content separate from single player. There will also be dedicated teams, as multiplayer and single player will be in development simultaneously, and because the multiplayer is substantial according to the job listings, it requires dedicated teams working simultaneously on single player campaign and content, multiplayer systems, progression and activities, shared world elements, both modes utilized, integration and testing between components. Now the parallel development is complex, expensive, but it's the only way to ship both components together or in close succession. Now the current state of Cyberpunk 2 is that pre-production is progressing, and there is no urgency to rush it. There are 135 developers, primarily in Boston, with Vancouver and Warsaw support. It's in the pre-production phase at about 6 months in, with around 12 to 18 months remaining. It's actively recruiting to the team, prioritizing mid and entry-level roles to complement senior leadership. Multiplayer infrastructure is being architected, narrative framework is being established, technical prototypes are being tested, and the public information about this title is minimal. There is no official release window, but a 2030 to 2032 release is likely based on the 4 to 5 year production cycle starting in 2026 to 2027. The CEO is happy with the progress, but it's too early to talk about entering any next stage or phase. So it seems Cyberpunk 2 is in a very healthy place. CD Projekt Red is very cautious with this project and wants to give it all the time it needs to really make an impact upon release, and it will be more like the game they promised with Cyberpunk 2077, along with a multiplayer component, which is likely going to make CD Projekt Red a ton of money if successful. Guys, let me know what you guys think about all these developments in regards to Cyberpunk 2. I've got more updates on this game coming out, and as more information comes, we will be covering it along with the Witcher series, God of War, Red Dead Redemption, so much more franchise. So browse the channel. I'll leave the videos in the description pinned comment section below.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.